Alright, hey guys, so I'm Katy, and this is lesson 5 of Girls in STEM lecture series, and again I'm back with the video format. This is actually my last lesson in this lecture series, so and before we get started, just again reminder that our Discord is always open for any questions. So if you have any, please feel free to put it in the any channel that is available to you. So today we're going to talk about HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There are some front-end languages, programming languages that are used to program web pages. So back in lesson 3 we talked about like internet and how we can send data through this optical fiber network and then through electromagnetic wave, I still can't say that word, to your devices. So yeah, we're going to talk about how we create those files today, and specifically how we like structure those devices and how we style those web pages. And yeah, so we're gonna get started. So before we get into like the different languages, I'm just gonna give you guys an analogy. So let's say we have a restaurant. The restaurant has the front or the dining part where customers can access and go to, or there is the kitchen part which the customer does not have access to, but it is where all the meals are made, all the dishes are made. And so this is really similar to how front end and back end languages work. The front end is the front part of the restaurant, which is the dining part of the restaurant. It's where the customers have access to, and the back end is where everything happens, all the data happens, which is the meals that are being prepared, and that is something that the customers do not have access to. So when I say customers, is really you are the users of web pages, and you do not have access to backend, but you can see front end and you can interact with front end. So front end languages are the ones that we're going to talk about today, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The languages that that the customers cannot see, or the users of the web page cannot see, is Python, SQL. We've also got Java, C, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of languages, a variety of languages that backend uses, but for front end, for strictly front end, we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We also use like Node.js, which is a version of JavaScript. So yeah, these are the 3 languages that are used in front end and strictly in front end. So back to the analogy that I was talking about, the customers are again the internet users, and the seats, the floorings, the pictures hanging up in the wall, the glass, the lights, they're all the features of front end, which is like the colors, the fonts, the images of the website. And then I would think the servers as like buttons, because you can interact with like different buttons on the website, which is like the server. So you can order a meal, which is like a text input on the web page, and then you can call the server, which is like a button or something on the web page, and then those inputs and buttons go into backend, which is the order that you have, and also the servers go into the kitchen to tell the kitchen what to do. And so the backend prepares the meal for you, and then it is delivered to front end to you, and you can enjoy those meals. So, which is also really similar to front end, back end, which the back end process information from you and then retrieves information to front end. It brings to front end, and then the user, the internet user or the web page user can have those data and do whatever they want with it. All right, so that's the analogy. So now, again, the three main languages that we're going to talk about is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we're going to break down each of these. So the first one we're going to look at is HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the standard markup language for documents designed to be displayed on a web browser. So the web pages that you see are actually just documents, believe it or not. YouTube, Facebook, any web pages that you can name, they're all really documents, although YouTube and Facebook, they can be really more complicated than like a simple web document. We're gonna actually code some web documents today, and I'm gonna show you examples of them. They're very, very simple. We call them vanilla documents or vanilla web pages that we're going to look at today. Is just really, really simple. It's just, we're going to start from scratch, from blank. So yeah, this is HTML. So the structure of a HTML file, it is like a person. So however, on the top of the person, we use this thing called doc type. It's exclamation mark, capitalized doc type HTML. This is used to tell the web page, okay, this is the HTML file, and then this specific syntax is used for HTML5, the 5th version of HTML, which is newest one. And then we're gonna enclose whatever we have in the HTML, and then end with the /HTML tags. So as you can see in the file. So this is a file here, and then this is a analogy of like a person. And then we're gonna get into like the actual part of an HTML file. So the first part is a head. The head usually encloses like things like the title of the web page, the favicon that you see on the tab. I'm going to show that later. And then also, we're also going to link CSS files and JavaScript files in the head. And then there are a lot of other things that you can do in the head, but these are the main 4 things that happen in, or that are enclosed in the head. And then every time you use the tag, which is like the angular brackets, you need a closing. So this should be a /head here. Yeah, so you need a opening and a closing, and then you put contents in there. And then we have the body. So the body comes after the head. It's whatever you want to be displayed on the web page. Yeah, so we're gonna have examples of all that later. So this is a very basic structure of HTML file. And this is a sample of a working HTML file with contents in there. As you can see, we in the file or the database, we have 3 files, which is HTML, index.html, script.javascript, and style.css. So now we have the index.html open, and this is a very simple version file of HTML. And like I said, the head is in charge of the web page title, which is enclosed in the title tag. And then the favicon, which is not, it's not in here, but favicon is usually used with the link tag. And then also we link the CSS style sheet here. So this line 7 refers to this. So it links the HTML file to the style.css file here. So the body includes all the information that we'll be presenting on the web page. That includes the hello world, which is enclosed in H1. H1 stands for heading 1, and then we're going to see like a representation of different headings. But yeah, whatever you want to represent or display on a web page, you want to put it in body. So this window that you're seeing is a website called repl.it. They changed their name to replit.com, but if you type this exact repl.it into your Google web browser, it'll work as well. So go ahead and pause the video, or you can fast forward because there are more instructions in the later. But so follow the instructions right now on the screen. Go ahead and visit the replit.com website or repl.it, and if you don't have an account already, which is likely, go ahead and make a Google account. And so after you have created an account and sign up, you want to create your first REPL. There is a plus button somewhere, and go ahead and select the HTML, CSS, JavaScript language, and you want to click create REPL, this button here. And then you don't have to do anything. Your file should look like this. So once you click create REPL, the very first thing that you're going to see is this file with 3 files in the database, and then this is what's inside the HTML file. So go ahead and click run and see what happens. So you should see the title hello world pop up here. This is showing the web page that you're creating. It's like a smaller file of the web page. It's like kind of like an embedded web page on the side. So if you want to see like the actual web page, you can click this open to the next tab here, and then you're gonna see like something pop up. So yeah. So if you click this button, it's gonna open like a new tab, and then you're gonna see the hello world on top of the screen or the top of the page. All right, so now we know how to like run a file. Now we know how to create a index.html file. We're gonna look at different things that we can put in a HTML file. And before that, I'm just going to mention the index.html is the default file name for the home page. So when you type let me think of like a simple website. I'm just gonna use like cca.com. I don't think that's the right address, but let's just say that we open cca.com, assuming that that's the URL for our school's website. cca.com, you don't have to type in cca.com/index.html. You just have to type in cca.com to direct you to the index.html file. So when the user only types cca.com, it defaults the user to index.html. So this is where you want to code your homepage. All right, so these are the very basic things that you can put in to your HTML file. HTML is a container-based language, and we're gonna look into that more later. But yeah, so we usually enclose a lot or all of the elements in different div containers. Div is a container, and then but we only use the div tag, and yeah, so div is like a container that works like a block element, and we're gonna also get into that later. But headings, we have H1, H2, H3, and H4, and it actually runs to H6. So there are different hierarchies of headings, and we also have paragraphs, and then we can also link images. And then as you can imagine, you can also do buttons, you can do video, you can do since the HTML5 updated, there's also like articles, sections, main, and different types of things that we can use to in the HTML file. So this is an example of a HTML file with more content in there, and if you look at lines 11 through 14, you can see the hierarchy of the titles. It runs from the biggest to H4, which is smaller than H3, smaller than H2, smaller than H1. And then as you can imagine, H5 and 6 will run even smaller and smaller. And then we have the paragraph, which is the smallest and not bolded. And yeah, and then we also linked an image from here. So a couple things to notice. I've titled this page called Demo. So when you open a new tab, the thing that you can see is titled as demo, and then we have the titles, and then I close that in a div container. And then also I enclose paragraph and image in another div container, and then we're going to see why later. And so when you want to link images, you want to link it in the source keyword, and the /image/koala.jpg is referring to this folder, and then within this folder there's the koala.jpg file. Yeah, so this is an example of a HTML file, and then we're gonna break down this file more later. Okay, so this is what I meant by opening a new tab. So again, if you open this this thing right here, this little button, you will open to a new tab, and then the title of the tab is demo, and then since I haven't linked any favicon, it's like a blank icon on the top. But if I want to link like a favicon that I designed, I can do that as well. And then you can see like the hello world. So let's say that our web page is like this. However, we're noticing that the image here is really big. So it's 1440 times 810 pixels. And so as you can see, our image is overflowing in this window. So how do we shrink the size of the image? And this is where Css File comes in. Css File stands for Cascading Style Sheets. The keyword here is style sheet. So there are documents or files that styles the HTML file. So definition of CSS is a style sheet language used for describing the presentation of a document written in the markup language like HTML. So before we get into like the examples, this is just a structure of a CSS file. So within the CSS files, we want to specify the different elements that we want to style. So if we're styling the paragraph element, we want to select P. We want to put in P, and then we want to select that. and then we enclose that with curly braces, and we want to enter the property. So the property that we want to style to is color, and then we want to set color to the value red. And then don't forget the semicolon at the end. And then we also want to style the paragraph, the text alignment of the paragraph to center. So this is how you do it. Yeah. And this is a sample of more complex CSS file. Yeah. So the body, as we can see here, there's no dot because we're calling the body tag, and so we can just style the whole entire body with margin of 0, so there are no margin. This is what we're specifying here. And the dot top nav, which is stand for top navigation bar, dot top nav is a class, and so we can assign each div container to different classes. And this is not a keyword, so body is a keyword, so we can use this just like that, plainly. Top nav, we can name it as tnav, as top n, or like top navigation bar. We can name it anything because we're creating a new class. This is what I chose to call it. So these are the different styles that I chose to style the top nav class to. So, and just a little bit more about like CSS in general. This is a box model. So here we set the margin to 0. We're just saying that, okay, the body of the document should not have any margin, any spaces. And it's way more easier to style with no margins. And so margins, like Google Doc, is the spacing of specific box with other boxes. And so I should have a, okay, hold on, let me grab my, oh god, okay, I posted notes, hold on. Okay, so, all right, we're back. So if you look at like a post-it note, you can think of margin as the spaces like outside. So let's say the post-it note is the content, or actually, so the post-it note is a post-it note, and gosh, okay, you know what? Okay, just never mind. So the post-it note is the post-it note, and actually I'm gonna do it this side. And the margin would be the spaces here around, and then the border would be the border. And then if we set the border width to like a certain pixel, then you can style that border. So you can change the color, the width of it, and it will actually show like a physical, like a solid like border. And you can also set the border to dashed, to aligned, whatever. And then so if you just look at like a box here, the content is like the words and the drawings that are that are in black, and that is the content. And the padding is, if we set the padding, the words would shrink down more, and then the background color would still remain the same. So let's say, so this is like a div container, and then the background color is set to orange or yellow, and then the content are, again, the text here. So if we have the padding, then the padding would add spaces, and so this will be like just the background color, and then the content would shrink or like shrink down. yeah. So margin, it's outside of the box. Border is the border of the box. Padding is the space between margin, border, and content. So between border and content, and the content is the actual content of the thing. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't even know what I was talking about. So now we have the CSS syntaxes, or the keywords that you can use in CSS. You can set the background color, the background image. You can set the letter spacing, the text decoration or word wrap. You can set the font family. You can set list style, tables layout, and border, and you can set like however you want the border collapse to look like. All right, and then so now we're gonna look at the relationship between CSS and HTML. This is very important because we have different files that we may want to use, and so here we see how the style sheets are linked to the HTML file. So we use the link keyword, and then we specified that it's a style sheet, and then we use the reference, the hyperreference keyword to link the style.css file. So make sure that you do this step before you style anything and put it in the head, because if you don't link the style sheet, HTML won't know which file that you're referring to, and it won't apply the styles to that HTML file. So now we're gonna classify different div containers to different classes, and so the div container that I enclose all of my titles in, I will call that just simply title. And then obviously you can call it different things. You can call it T, you can call it titles, hello world titles, whatever you want to name it. And for the second div container, I'm gonna call it about me. And then within that about me container, I have the paragraph and also the image. And so now I have a split screen of my my different stylings and my HTML file. So this is the HTML file from last slide. It didn't change at all. The only thing that changed is this thing. So as you can notice, the whole file changed from a plain, completely plain page to now there are different colors and different spacings. So yeah, so take a moment and look at this, and then we're going to talk about it later. You can pause the video if you want to. So we're going to go back and forth to here and here, but so the first thing that you're going to notice is that the this thing background is pink. The reason for that is because we style the background color of the title div container, which is containing all the different headings, to pink. So that's why it is pink. And for CSS, for HTML CSS, div containers are usually, or almost always, a width of the whole screen. So it is default to width 100%. Then we have the about me padding. We set it to 50%, 50 pixels, and so you can see the little spacing here, the spacing here, and you can't really see it, but the spacing also here and down here. So each of them are 50 pixels, top, left, top, right, bottom. And then this is the about me div container. So the whole entire about me, which includes the paragraph and the image, are all have paddings of the 50 pixels. So, and now we have the about me p, which is the paragraph element. So we're saying that the paragraph element within the about me div container. So if I put another P here, it won't apply. This thing, line 9 through 11, won't apply to a P element that is put in anywhere outside of the about me container. And this styling is applied to the P element in the about me container. And so you can see the font family is different. It's Verdana now. And then we have the koala picture. And then we set the image to, we give the image to an ID of koala hyphen pic. And so to reference a ID, we use hashtag. To reference a class, we use dot. And if we were just referencing to like the body key tag, we just use body. We don't do dot body or hashtag body, we just do body. So back to where we are. ID, we give it to koala pic. So we do hashtag koala pic. And then we set the width and the height to 400 by 300. And so now it's contained in the document instead of like overflowing everywhere. All right, this is what I said earlier. And now we're gonna just look briefly at JavaScript. So JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language designed to make web development easier and more attractive. In most cases, JavaScript is used to create responsive, interactive elements for web pages, enhancing the user experience. So, when you, okay, this is a really bad example, but let's say you are posting a happy birthday message on Facebook. I know, Facebook, nobody uses Facebook, but I had an experience before. I mean, I had Facebook and I sometimes use it for happy birthday message to my cousins, to my grandmas. Yeah, so I use that for that. And so when I type in happy birthday in a comment, it sends happy birthday as the keyword, and then it shows like confettis and like celebratory elements all over the screen. So how does it do that? And the main thing here is JavaScript. And so JavaScript can sense inputs. It can detect different things that create different things. And also there are times when you like scroll and then something disappears on a web page. That is also JavaScript. So an example for that would be like JavaScript, if the page is scrolled 50 pixels down, then I'm gonna hide this button. Yeah, so that's how JavaScript works. And this is a structure of a JavaScript file. Again, like CSS files, we want to link the JavaScript file to the HTML page. A really crucial step. If you don't do that, you're gonna spend your whole life wondering why my code is not working. It's because you didn't link it. Instead of the hyperreference, we're gonna use SRC, which stands for source, and we're gonna link that. And this is a very, very, very simple of JavaScript file, but here we have just only 2 lines of code. Usually we want to create a separate file of JavaScript to make things easier, to separate things out. And yeah, so this is the what it looks like if you run the file with the JavaScript file linked to the HTML file. So it will give the whole entire browser or the tab an alert of hello world. So this is what I meant by object-oriented language. This is we're creating a variable x, and then we're setting x to hello world, and then we're alerting X, which is the object, and then the X reference to the variable X, which is hello world. So it's really alert hello world. And yeah, here we go. And then I think I have more to say, but I guess that's it. So yeah, so this is all about JavaScript. Yeah. So now I have a couple sample websites that I want to show you guys. They are very good. So I've included my website and also Nomadic Tribe Make Me Pulse website. I'm just gonna show a little bit of each of them, not long, but you guys can go ahead and click on these links to different to check them out. So this is my website. I coded this like February, I think, for a UCSD extension course, and I'm a big fan of Pride and Prejudice. It's my all-time favorite movie. I can rewatch it over and over and over again. And so this thing right here, it's a CSS animation. It like goes up and down, and then if you can see on the bottom of the page, when I hover over, it's saying that it's linked to the about section, the hashtag about section. So if I do that, it like jumps to an about section. And then this is, as you can tell, this is a div container with probably margin of 20 pixels. And then the border radius is set to probably like also 20 pixels. And then you can also see that the background color, the opacity is probably pretty low to see the background image of the whole body. And then and then this image that you see on the end, on the back, it's probably a background image of the whole entire body element, so it stays. Yeah. So and then as you can see, the styling of each div container repeats itself, so you can imagine what's going on in the files. They probably have the same stylings. It just applies to different different elements or different contents. Yeah. Oh, I love this movie. Okay, so these are div containers within div containers. So you can include a bunch of like div containers or infinite amount of div containers and infinite amount of div containers. So there can be infinite amount of child div containers. And yeah, so this is also CSS at work. This whole page is only HTML and CSS. CSS is like when you hover a div container, it shows these, and also that, and then it links to trailer of those adaptations. And I highly recommend this one. Oh my god, so good. Okay, so that's my website, and we're gonna look at the next one, which is by a company that I absolutely adore. I hope to work for it one day. It's called Make Me Pulse, and then they enter a competition using this website called Nomadic Tribe. It's the Nomadic Tribe. It's like a theme. It's kind of like a scenery, really. It's just like a website, but the thing is the animation. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
today is a big day for our tribe.
If you visit the website on your own, you can like experience it, but there's also sound, and then you can do this. Look at that. I love this website. And then there's like the whole thing with it, and And I love everything about it.
The whisper of
Even like the aesthetic, it's so good.
ancient words.
Okay. So we're gonna interval screen again. So please take your time and look at this website. It's beautiful. Now we're gonna just go through quickly of the web development process. So if you are a web developer, you should definitely follow these process with a client or with anybody that or with any project that you're working on. So the first thing is obviously you want to look at the requirements and specifications, and with this whole process, we're assuming that you are working with a client that wants you to develop a website for them. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at the requirements and specifications. Clients may want you to create a certain amount of pages, the about pages, the archive pages, the contact us pages, the I don't know what else, but just pages that they want you to do. And then also you want to identify what audience you're trying to connect with. Either they're boomers, Gen Zs, millennials, and you want to create websites that gears towards those audience. And you also want to lay out all the technical requirements that you are gonna make, different technical things that you want to put in your website. You want to have that down early on. And the second step that we're gonna take is we're gonna create a taxonomy of the website. So you want to lay out the hierarchy of the website. So this will definitely be the index.html page, and then within or the child of HTML in index.html page would be about.html, contact us.html, or if you're working like on a portfolio, you can be like resume.html, and then within that about.html, you can be like leadership.html, and then team members.html, or our story.html, just like different things. And you want to lay out which page links to what. And then the third thing that we're going to do is page layout. So this is the wireframe and mockups. We want to sketch like an overall layout of what the page looks like, and also like which button links to what. And then the fourth one is content development. Again, this links to the audiences that we're trying to gear towards. Either they are mainly like a certain gender, like skin and hair products. It's mainly, I'm not saying all, but mainly geared towards female audience. So what do female audience look for? If it's a educational website, it's usually parents and students. So what do students and parents need? Yeah. And then also step 5, we want to assure the quality, and then we want to test it on users. Usually we take like a sample size of like a certain amount. If it's a small website, usually like 50 to 100. So if it's a big website, we also want to test the traffic of the website and how tolerable it is to traffic. So we want a bigger sample size. And yeah, we want to like assure the quality and that it can run on different platforms. It can run on Android phones, iOS, iPhones, iPads, iMac, MacBook, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure it can run on every single device that it can access to. And then finally, you want to publish it and promote it. And then after publishing, the work isn't done. This is actually where work starts. You want to continue to maintenance it and then keep the content fresh. All right, so finally, we're gonna just discuss a little like careers of web developers. This is the fun part because we're gonna look at salaries. So web developers are there's 3 types of web developers. Like I mentioned earlier, there are front end, back end, and although our lesson really talks about front end, but you have to know that there are 3 different types of web developers, and the 3 different languages that we talked about today is mainly the work of a front-end web developer, and languages such as PHP, Java, Python, SQL, C, etc. is the work of a back-end developer. And the full stack developers, which are more rare now, there still are plenty, but rare because front end, back end, they're all expanding at a very rapid pace. Like it's getting more complicated, and so mastering both at the same time is quite difficult now. But there are still people who are really good at it and who master both. So there are full stack web developers who can do both front end and back end, and they're usually paid more. However, it's not really the case now. If you're super good at front end, you may get paid more. Yeah, so more and more people are just focusing on either front end or back end. But it is definitely helpful if you know backend as a front-end web developers, even though you're not good at it. Just know how it works can really help you. Oh, and like same for backend, if you know like the limitations and the possibilities of front-end, you can really like develop things that are cool, and it helps you work better with front-end web developers. So these are web developers, but developers usually don't know how to design stuff. Or okay, that's kind of racist. That's kind of bad. So developers, they are strictly for developing. They are for coding. So you have to know that web developers are actually programmers. Their job is not to design anything. So this is where web designers comes in. So there are 2 types of designers: is either UI designers or UX designers. UI designers, UI stands for user interface. UX stands for user experience. So UI is the aesthetic, the sound, the color, the fonts, the layouts. UX is how well or how easy it is for users to navigate through the website. So UI can create like beautiful aesthetic, complicated design, but then UX designers will come in and say, let's simple this down because users might get overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. So yeah, and I also have a meme of UI and UX. So you have like a beautiful website, beautiful cup that is designed by a UI designer, and it has like the ears and everything. It's so cute, but then the UX designer comes in and be like, yeah, no, it's kind of dumb, you know. All right. And I think the biggest takeaway of this lesson is that web developers are needed everywhere. When I say everywhere, it's everywhere. So this is also a good reason why STEM is so important, and why everybody should know to learn how to code, especially like web, because web is like for everywhere. You've got arts, educational services, fashion, tech, sports, broadcasting, beauty. If you're into beauty, makeup, hair, beauty products, but you want to earn a higher starting salary, you want to be a programmer too, you want to be a woman in STEM, you can do that. You can be a web developer because beauty companies need web developers. Where do you think their customer buy things from? So they definitely need like aesthetic websites to attract more people. And then if you're into real estate, you can do that too, because real estate agents also need websites. Hospitality, hotels, they need websites. Everybody needs websites. Sports, if you're into sports, if you're into NBA, and then you also want to code, NBA needs websites, and then also MLB have different like games platforms that you can use, and that also need front-end and back-end web developers. Yeah, and here's like a little chart of like salaries for developers. I don't think this is quite accurate, because I think this is just like an average. And this is like the salary. Usually people get bonus, usually people also get stock. So yeah, these are just some numbers. And this is for designers, graphic designer, UI, UX. And yeah, so that is all for this lesson. Thank you for sticking around till the end. And hopefully you learned a lot about web development. And before you go, we actually want to tell you that we will open a front-end free course next semester, next school year. It is going to be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It will briefly, very, very briefly touch on JavaScript, barely. So it's mainly HTML and CSS. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, we also have a question in the quiz today. If you're interested in that, please let us know in the quiz, the option yes or no. Yeah, so again, thank you for attending this or watching this video, and have a nice day. Bye.